The one good thing about the performance, I thought, from the start to finish, was Jude Bellingham to go. He was what you want Jude Bellingham to be. He was dynamic. He didn't just make forward runs. He did the defensive side of the game as well. He played a little bit deeper. He looked like a top-class, world-class midfield player today.
The 2026 FIFA World Cup doesn't just have an England problem anymore. It has a Jude Bellingham problem.
Who else? Bellingham gets there. Not pretty. Who cares? England lead 1-0 back.
Think about what has happened in just 3 matches. England have scored 6 goals at this World Cup. Jude Bellingham has already been directly involved in half of them. He rescued England against Croatia, became the youngest player ever to reach 50 England caps, then produced the goal and assist that secured top spot against Panama, while Harry Kane broke England's all-time scoring record at the World Cup. But that's only part of the story, because just weeks before this tournament, Bellingham was coming off the most frustrating season of his Real Madrid career. Surgery, hamstring injuries, 3 different tactical roles under 3 different managers, questions about his form, public tension with Thomas Tuchel, even comments about his personality dominated the headlines more than his football. Now, everything has changed. England suddenly look like a completely different team whenever Bellingham takes control. The deeper role against Panama unlocked his game. His ball carrying is breaking defensive blocks. His late runs into the box are deciding matches again. And the same player many believed had regressed is once again looking like one of the most complete midfielders in world football. Now comes the frightening part. Real Madrid have appointed José Mourinho, and reports suggest he wants to restore Bellingham to the advanced role that produced 23 goals, a Champions League title, a La Liga crown, and a Ballon d'Or podium finish in his first season at the Bernabeu. So, did Jude Bellingham really decline, or did Madrid simply stop using the best version of him? And if this is what he's producing after the hardest club season of his career, what happens when he is fully fit, fully trusted, and playing in the role that made him one of football's biggest stars? This is why the entire World Cup suddenly has a Jude Bellingham problem.
England arrived at this World Cup with talent everywhere, but through 3 Group L matches, one pattern has become impossible to ignore. When the game tightens, when the rhythm disappears, when England needs someone to turn possession into authority, the ball keeps finding Jude Bellingham. That's not just a compliment, it's becoming the central question of Tuchel's tournament. The squad looked built for control on paper. Kane for penalty box certainty, Saka for width and one-on-one threat, Rice for security, Foden, Rashford, Gordon, Palmer, all giving Tuchel options most managers would envy. But tournament football doesn't reward names, it rewards clarity and players who can change the emotional direction of a match. Against Croatia, that lesson arrived immediately. The game finished 4-2, but it was anything but clean. Kane scored twice in the first half, Croatia came back twice, England's defensive spacing was loose, the midfield kept getting stretched, and every time Tuchel's side looked ready to settle, Croatia found a way back in. Then, Bellingham took over. Early in the second half, he drove through the right channel, held off pressure with his body, and finished low across the goalkeeper. Not just a goal, the first real sign of England's identity. When the game turned scrappy, Bellingham didn't wait for the system to fix it. He carried the ball, attacked the space, and forced the match to move at his pace. Rashford added the 4th later, but the decisive moment had already happened. That night also carried a record. Bellingham became the youngest European player to appear in 4 major international tournaments. At 22, he already has Euro 2020, the 2022 World Cup, Euro 2024, and now 2026 on his record. That's not normal progression for someone his age. Then came Ghana, and it showed the other side of the problem. Ghana didn't try to outplay England, they tried to suffocate them. Queiroz's side sat compact, closed the middle, narrowed every passing lane into Kane and Bellingham, and forced England to circulate without any real penetration. It ended 0-0, and the performance felt like a genuine warning. The issue wasn't a lack of attackers, it was access. Ghana stopped Bellingham receiving in the areas where he can turn and attack. Without that central spark, England's possession became completely predictable, wide, back inside, slow, and eventually hopeless. Even after being named player of the match that night, Bellingham rejected it, said he didn't deserve it, and Ghana's defenders probably should have won it, given how well they'd shut England down. That honesty matched exactly what everyone had just watched. He still added a milestone. Against Ghana, he reached 50 caps at 22 years and 359 days, becoming the youngest men's player to reach that number for England. Wayne Rooney's record gone. For most players, 50 caps is a career landmark. For Bellingham, it feels like a warm-up. Panama in the final group game gave England the chance to top the group, and Tuchel made 5 changes. Quansah in at right back with James unavailable, O'Reilly at left back, Rodgers in a more attacking midfield role, Saka and Rashford back in the attack. The first half was heavy. Panama defended with real discipline and broke forward with more courage than England wanted. Rashford forced a low save from Mosquera, but after that the game turned awkward. England had possession without speed. Rashford kept meeting 2 defenders. Saka got crowded every time he tried to drive inside. Kane barely had clean service. Panama stayed compact and nearly punished them when Rodriguez got in behind and forced Pickford into an important stop. The crowd could feel it. England were top of the group technically, but not playing like a team ready to frighten anyone in the knockouts.
The key shift was Bellingham's positioning. Instead of sitting high as a fixed number 10, he dropped slightly deeper toward the midfield build-up. More touches, more angles to receive, more freedom to decide when to slow things down or attack the space ahead. Perfect for the match because Panama's block wasn't leaving gaps between the lines. England needed someone who could start deeper, carry forward and arrive late rather than waiting in crowded zones. 62nd minute, Saka's corner came in from the left, ball dropped into the danger area and Bellingham reacted quickest. Under pressure, bodies everywhere, he stabbed a left-footed finish into the bottom corner. Not spectacular, classically Bellingham, arriving where the danger was about to happen before anyone else had fully realised it. 5 minutes later, he changed it again, received on the left, drove at Panama's defensive line, created the crossing angle, lifted a perfect delivery for Kane. The header was emphatic. Kane's 11th World Cup goal, passing Gary Lineker as England's all-time leading scorer in the competition. Bellingham gives England the lead, then Bellingham gives Kane history. 5 minutes, match done. Tactically, those 2 actions explain the Panama performance. He scored and assisted not because he was running around creating noise, but because he read the rhythm of the game better than anyone else in white. When England needed patience, he dropped in. When they needed progression, he carried. When Panama's defenders were occupied, he attacked the blind spots. When the game needed quality from a half space, he delivered it. England won 2-0, topped Group L with 7 points, set up a last 32 meeting with DR Congo. 6 goals across the group stage, Bellingham directly involved in 3. Goals against Croatia and Panama, assist for Kane's record header. Half of England's group output connected to 1 midfielder. That doesn't make England a one-man team. Kane is still decisive, Saka still stretches games, Rice remains central to the balance. But influence isn't measured only by talent, it's measured by when a player affects the match. And Bellingham's moments have consistently come when England looked least convincing. Against Croatia, he restored control when the game was coming apart. Against Ghana, his frustration made clear how much England suffer when he can't find space. Against Panama, he solved a match drifting toward another uncomfortable conversation. Which leaves Tuchel with a serious question before the knockouts even begin. Is Bellingham becoming England's biggest weapon, or are England becoming too dependent on one player to look like genuine contenders? England almost needed a controversy before they remembered how important Bellingham was. The relationship with Tuchel hadn't felt simple for months. Shoulder surgery in August 2025 left out of the October squad despite returning ahead of schedule at Madrid. Then the repulsive comment about his on-pitch behaviour, which Tuchel blamed on his second language. By then it had already landed. Even Courtois felt the need to speak publicly, saying he couldn't imagine England going to the World Cup without Jude. That's his club goalkeeper vouching for him. Then the tournament started and all the noise evaporated. Against Croatia, Bellingham scored the goal that changed the match when it was coming apart. Not just the goal, the timing. Against Ghana, the opposite. Blocked central lanes, crowded out, England flat, 0-0. Kane, Saka, Rice all still on the pitch, but without Bellingham receiving cleanly between the lines, nobody broke Ghana's shape from the inside. That's England's real question. Why do they look so much better when he drives games? He's not just a number 10 or a ball carrier. England use him as the bridge between pressure and penetration. Drops beside Rice to progress play, runs beyond Kane into the space Kane vacates, arrives late at the edge of the box, counter-presses immediately after losing the ball. That range feels bigger than his position. Panama showed it clearly. Tuchel dropped him slightly deeper, more contact with the game. 62nd minute, Saka's corner, Bellingham reacted quickest in a crowd of bodies and stabbed it home. 5 minutes, received on the left, carried, opened the crossing angle, delivered for Kane's 11th World Cup goal, passing Gary Lineker as England's all-time leading World Cup scorer. Striker instinct, then midfielder creation. 5 minutes, match decided. Youngest England player since 1966 to both score and assist in a World Cup match. 3 of England's 6 group stage goals directly involved him, half the tournament output from one midfielder. Every contender has a player who shapes their identity. Spain have Rodri, France have Mbappe, Argentina have Messi. England have Bellingham, except he's asked to do several jobs simultaneously. Progress the ball, support Kane, arrive in the box, counter-press, carry through midfield, and raise the emotional temperature when England go passive. Better teams will try to trap him, block receiving angles, push him deeper, crowd him when he turns. Ghana showed the blueprint, Panama held it for an hour. Stronger midfields will execute it with more quality. England aren't short of talent, they're short of automatic rhythm. Their best moments feel sparked more than constructed. When England needed someone against Croatia, Jude answered. When they couldn't find him against Ghana, the whole team looked ordinary. When Panama frustrated them for an hour, Jude answered again. If Bellingham is England's greatest weapon, that gives them a path. If he becomes their only reliable solution, that gives every opponent a plan.
The danger with judging Bellingham's last 2 years at Madrid is that people looked at the numbers without asking what had changed around him. Because the player England are watching at this World Cup isn't new. It's the version Madrid saw in 2023-24 when they paid an initial €103 million for him and almost immediately discovered they hadn't bought a midfielder, they'd bought a match winner. Ancelotti used him at the tip of a midfield diamond, close enough to the attack to hurt teams, free enough to arrive from positions defenders hated tracking. Not a classic number 10 standing between the lines, a midfielder with striker timing. The output was genuinely ridiculous for a 20-year-old. 23 goals in all competitions, 19 in La Liga, 4 goals and 4 assists in 11 Champions League appearances, including the assist for Vinicius in the final against Dortmund. Third in the Ballon d'Or conversation, La Liga and Champions League winner in his debut season. By that point, nobody was calling him a future superstar. He already was one. But the first season created a problem. It made the perfect version of Jude look easy. It wasn't easy. It was system-specific. Madrid had Cruz dictating tempo, Valverde covering ground, Camavinga and Tchouaméni protecting space.
no traditional number 9 every week, which meant Bellingham had room to attack like a second striker without being permanently marked as one. Once Madrid changed shape and changed how he received the ball, the numbers dropped. The simple narrative was that Jude had declined. The better explanation was that Madrid moved him further from the actions that made him special. The role shifted from arriving in the box to helping the midfield function. More touches deeper, more defensive responsibility, less attacking freedom. For a player like Bellingham, that positional shift matters enormously. Receive near the box and he's a goal threat. Receive near the halfway line and he becomes a carrier and link player. Still valuable, just less decisive in the numbers people use to judge him. Then the injuries made everything worse. The shoulder issue had been there since 2023. He played with strapping for months before finally having surgery in July 2025. Disrupted pre-season, disrupted rhythm, disrupted the physical base a midfielder needs when his game runs on duels, carries and repeated explosive runs. Then the hamstring, confirmed damage to the semitendinosus muscle in his left leg, costing him another spell at a critical point of the campaign. For any player, that's difficult. For Bellingham specifically, whose best football is built on acceleration and separation from pressure, it took something important away. So the question was never whether Jude became worse. The question was whether Madrid ever rebuilt the conditions that made him look unstoppable. Which is why the Mourinho appointment is genuinely interesting. Reports suggest he wants Bellingham as the number 10 in a 4-2-3-1, operating behind the striker rather than sitting deeper as a conventional central midfielder. That detail matters because it puts him back in the spaces where he does maximum damage, between midfield and defence, arriving around the box, pressing from the front, attacking the second phase. Historically, this is a Mourinho type of player. Lampard at Chelsea, Sneijder at Inter, Pogba at his best under Mourinho, Milinkovic-Savic later in his career. Physically dominant midfielders who can compete and carry and still appear in the 6-yard box like a forward. Two midfielders behind him protecting structure, wide players stretching the pitch, striker occupying centre-backs, Bellingham connecting and running late. That's the first season version, and it makes a lot of sense. Which brings us back to the World Cup, because 3 group games have stripped all the noise away. The injuries, the role changes, the reduced numbers, the managerial changes, the debates about his personality, all of it pushed aside by the simplest evidence. When Jude is fit, trusted and given space to influence from central areas, he still changes football matches. England finished top of Group L. Kane made history. Tuchel got through the group managing a squad still searching for fluency.
But after 3 games, the truth is impossible to avoid. Whenever England need a decisive action, the game keeps finding Jude. Here's the real warning though. If this is Bellingham after shoulder surgery, a hamstring problem, tactical restrictions, reduced attacking freedom, and months of debate around his England role, what happens after a proper pre-season under a manager who reportedly wants him closer to goal again? Maybe Madrid didn't lose Jude Bellingham, maybe they just lost the right version of him. The World Cup is starting to bring that version back, and if the knockout rounds follow the same pattern, the biggest problem won't belong to England, it'll belong to everyone trying to stop him.